Hey, welcome to Innovator Spotlight, where we meet remarkable people and solutions in the cybersecurity industry. I'm Armstead Whitney, the CEO of Aptega, and I'm really excited today to be hosting today's session with Ron Frechette with GoldSky Security. Ron, welcome to today's session.
Thank you, Armstead. It's an absolute honor and pleasure to be here today.
Well, terrific. Well, let's just start out with you telling us, what is GoldSky Security?
Yeah, so GoldSky Security is a cybersecurity advisory company that exists to really help to educate, transform, and protect small to mid-sized businesses. As you know, we actually started in the enterprise security world, and what we realized is a lot of these cyber thugs, as enterprise companies started getting their arms around security, they started working their way down the supply chain and starting to pick on the little guys. We started seeing that when we lived in the enterprise world, and so we just made it our mission to really focus on helping the SMBs, and they need a lot of help.
Absolutely. As you look at the SMB market, what are really some of the biggest challenges they face today in implementing great cybersecurity?
That's a great question. Frankly, there's quite a few things, but just to kind of highlight a few things, again, it's about knowledge. It's practicing basic cyber hygiene, right? What we've learned when we actually started this journey 5 years ago is that many of these small to mid-sized business owners are so busy focused on selling their widgets or their services that they really haven't had time to understand the importance of practicing good cyber hygiene. So that is one of the biggest challenges, is what you don't know will hurt you. And so what we're beginning to see is that we're starting to see some adoption. Back in probably 2018, 2019, we started seeing kind of the early adopters come in to the fold, but there's still a lot of work to be done in the SMB world. But the biggest challenge I would say right now is just being aware of how to practice good cyber hygiene, and then from there, transforming the way that they do business into the digital age way, and then building a robust cybersecurity program around their infrastructure to protect the data that they that they have from their clients and themselves.
Yeah, you're saying, the threat actors are now going down market from the large enterprises and really focusing a lot on the SMB. What are the biggest threats you're seeing that are actually happening to an SMB?
Yeah, ransomware is a big one. Obviously, phishing. A lot of the employees, insider threats, and again, they don't mean to do this, but again, what you don't know will hurt you, right? So we're starting to see, I think there was a report that came out at the end of 2019 that talked about the SMB IT managers right now. They're increasing their security spending by like 27%. That was moving into 2020. Of course, we know what happened in 2020. But at the end of the day, increasing their spending, and really their biggest concerns focused around ransomware, phishing, and data breaches.
Right. All those things can, even for an SMB, can wipe them out overnight, if they don't have those things in place.
Yes, 60%, and this is commonly known now out there in the marketplace, but 60% of small businesses that are hit with either ransomware, phishing, or data breaches, specifically more, I would say, towards data breaches, they're filing bankruptcy within 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
They can't afford the digital forensics work that it takes to help get the mess cleaned up and figure out what the root cause was. And then, of course, all potential fines and penalties behind that, and then brand damage.
Are you seeing a lot of supply chain kind of vendor due diligence impacting the SMB, where the SMB's customers are asking them about their security? So even if a company hasn't been breached or had an incident, what are you seeing in the marketplace around that, kind of a third party vendor management side of it for these SMBs?
That is a great question. And I will tell you, back in September of 2018, we started getting a lot of calls from SMB owners saying, hey, I just got this questionnaire from one of my biggest clients, and they're asking me if I have policies and procedures in place. Am I doing an annual security risk assessment? Do I have a disaster recovery business continuity plan in place? And the bottom line, Armistead, is that if these small, mid-sized business owners, if they're not responding, number one, they don't even know how to respond, right? So that's when we would get the calls. But what we're seeing, again, going back to the fact that these enterprise companies, they're getting their arms around security. So their auditors are coming in and doing their annual security risk assessment saying, you guys look good. How do your third-party vendors look? And there was a gap there. So we're starting to see this trend now where these security questionnaires are almost like a best security practice for enterprise client companies to make sure that their vendors are practicing good cyber hygiene. And in some cases, they're asking for certifications, right? Are you SOC 2 certified, et cetera?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Are you seeing a lot of these, governance frameworks being pushed down to the SMBs? And if so, kind of which ones are you seeing?
Yeah, so we're seeing it spans across all compliance, privacy, CCPA, NYDFS, GDPR. We're starting to see a lot of the privacy compliance frameworks being mandated more so than when GDPR first came out here in the United States. From a compliance standpoint, PCI obviously has been around for a long time. So PCI compliance is really big. A lot of the smaller merchants are being considered high risk for the payment processors and the card brands right now. We actually have a seat on the PCI Security Standards Council's Small Business Task Force. So we're really working directly with industry to try to figure out how to mitigate the risk of these small businesses that are accepting credit cards so that they're not such high risk for the processors at the end of the day. And then the other one is HIPAA, right? Back in 2009, the HITECH Act of 2009 came out, which brought all business associates into scope for HIPAA compliance. So we started seeing a rush of business associates, which are companies that are basically servicing hospitals, labs, what we call the covered entities, come into play. And then, as we know, HITRUST is now come into the fold, and we're starting to see a lot of healthcare systems, the bigger ones like Ascension Health, Baptist, they're requiring their business associates in many cases to be HITRUST certified. So those would be some big ones. And then SOC 2, and we're starting to see ISO 27001. So if you're doing business outside of the United States, many of the European countries, that's what they use as kind of a baseline, that ISO certification. So we're starting to see we're doing a lot of ISO readiness work for our clients as well.
Yeah, and I look forward to learning more about your solutions here in a few minutes. We'll go through our demo section. Sticking on frameworks for a minute, CMMC is getting a lot of coverage right now, a lot of buzz for DoD contractors, prime subcontractors. Are you seeing that as well in the SMB?
Yeah, and that's probably one I should have brought up, right? So we are what they call an RPO under the CMMC accreditation body. The CMMC certification, it's the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification Program, is definitely impacting every federal contractor. Right now, it's only under the DoD, Armistead, but we're starting to see that it's kind of working its way into other federal agencies. Mm-hmm. And we believe that this is the way of the future. There's too many smaller federal government contractors that, again, they may be small, they may make a widget for, some type of system for the federal government, but what we're seeing is their controls around their environment aren't very secure because, again, they're small, they have limited budgets. So if you can get 3, 4, 5 of those small business or those contractors for the federal government working on a weapons system that only use one component, but you can have nation state actors pulling that information, what they can do is quickly begin re-engineering what that weapon system is. And then voila, you have a Chinese fighter jet that seems to go a little further than ours and it carries a little heavier payload, right? So we're seeing that. And so the DoD is definitely, bearing down on small federal contractors and the primes to get certified. So this is not just you can't self-attest anymore like you used to under NIST
Right.
171. Now you actually have to say, yes, I'm certified, and then what they call a C3 PAO, which is a audit company designated by the CMMC, will come in and actually do a third-party audit. So what we do at GoldSky is we're doing all the readiness work for our clients. We work with a lot of federal prime and subcontractors, and we're helping them get ready for the C3 PAOs to come in and do that attestation work.
Well, I think I'd love to see how you guys do it. So why don't I stop share on my end?
Sure.
And pull your screen up, and I'd like to see what your approach is. To all of our SMBs that are watching this who maybe just don't even know where to start. I'd love to learn more about how they should get the program moving.
Armistead, it's funny, when we first got into the SMB space in 2016, the first thing we realized quickly was that a lot of these SMB owners couldn't spell cyber. They just didn't have the knowledge. And we had to figure out how to boil this down so that it was easy to understand, easy to implement, and that they would begin taking action at the end of the day. So we went into whiteboard mode, and we spent a couple of weeks on the whiteboard trying to figure out how to keep this as easy to understand as possible. And we came up with what you're seeing on the screen right now. It's basically a 5-phase cyber risk management system that we call Dream Secure. And that was an accident. I'll tell you about that in a second. But it's 5 phases. So the first step is to really diagnose your digital footprint. You first have to diagnose before you can prescribe, right? So we do that in the form of a security risk assessment. So we'll come in, we'll start with a security risk assessment. Once we do that, we're looking at people, processes, facilities, and technologies. And it's important for me to say that because many consultants out there will say they're going to do a risk assessment, but primarily they're looking at the technology stack. But there's 3 other threat vectors that you need to make sure that anybody that you come in to do a security risk assessment for you, they're looking at all 4 of those threat vectors.
Yeah.
Once we complete that security risk assessment, now we're most likely, especially for the SMB world, we're going to find a lot of gaps, and some of them are going to be urgent, some are going to be low risk, but we want to prioritize all those and develop a remediation plan for our clients so that they can begin to start working on closing those gaps. Once we we'll do a threat outbrief with our clients and provide a remediation roadmap to start closing gaps. Many times they're going to need to engage managed security service providers. So this is where we move into phase 3, where we're putting that remediation plan into action to start mitigating those risks. Then we want to give probably about a quarter or so for them to work on that remediation work. And then we're going to move into phase 4, which is auditing that remediation plan. And we want to actually test those gaps that we originally uncovered to make sure that they're actually closed. And then phase 5, the final phase, we say you're optimized when you're monitoring your endpoints 24/7, 365. And so this actually 5-phase process, and again, we like to say wash, rinse, and repeat, right? So you should be doing this on an annual basis, or if you have a major infrastructure change. And just to get back to the name, after we had done the whiteboarding session, we looked at it and we're like, hey, man, it spells dream. And our first thought was, I don't know, man, that's a little cheesy. But we started socializing it out to our clients. And I got to tell you, we got some very, very positive feedback, easy to remember, easy to understand. Many of our clients will use this Dream Secure illustration to do security awareness training sessions for their employees. So we're all about the dream. We're living it. We're eating it. We're breathing it. We're bleeding it. And we're having a blast with it.
So Ron, a lot of SMBs, they might have one IT person and certainly, not a lot of security expertise. How do you augment that where SMB says, hey, this looks great. I'm all in with Dream, but hey, I just don't have any resources,
Yeah.
really to even implement these things. Is that something you guys can offer as well?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, typically what will happen is once we get into phase 2 remediation and start explaining, the gaps that they have, oftentimes we'll get that look, right? Okay, can you guys help us with this? And that's when we introduce our Chief Security Officer as a service solution, which quite frankly, we're finding is now quickly becoming our flagship service offering, where what we'll do is we'll say, okay, we can actually help you close these gaps. We can help you write your policies and procedures. We can build your business continuity, disaster recovery program. And it's a subscription-based program over a 12-month period that allows them to spread the cost. And what we'll do is we'll do a risk assessment when we engage initially with the client. And then as we identify gaps, we can close them on the fly. And over a period of time, work through the Dream Secure phases so that we have them eventually to a point where they're monitoring all their endpoints, but they have a chief security officer literally assigned to their business that they can defer all of their vendors, all their clients. If you're looking for security solutions, they can look to the chief security officer consultant to help them make those decisions.
Yeah, that's great. I think this is just really an incredible package. What's sort of the pricing model? Is it monthly, quarterly, project based? Let's say someone just wants to do training, for example, and that's all they need now. How do you sort of package and go to market with this?
Yeah, so it's based on, at the end of the day, it's all about endpoints for us, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of how we'll scope an environment.
So an endpoint's a computer, it's devices.
Yes, sir.
On-prem, off-prem, all that stuff, right? Okay.
But I would say from a chief security officer as a service solution, it's a monthly payment that's made. It's based on however many hours that the client needs us to be in there. So I would say average would be 10 to 20 hours a month. In some cases, if they have like a SOC 2 engagement they need to get ready for, that may go up. But again, it allows us to help them spread the costs over a period of 12 months. So rather than hiring a chief security officer that could cost $200,000 or more, you can hire us, and we have a whole reservoir of chief security officers that may cost you $5-6 grand a month.
And I also, it sounds like that, if there's an incident of some kind, let's say, Tim in accounting clicked that phishing email and he shouldn't have. Can you help with the incident response as well?
Absolutely. So we have had a few of these cases that, again, our clients, we had a law firm that had some ransomware. We were able to get in there. Unfortunately, they actually encrypted their backups along with their data. So they were in a precarious situation, but we ended up negotiating with the cyber criminals and were able to get all their data back for them. But for the bigger projects, we actually have a partner. If you go to our website, you can see GoldSkySecurity.com. You'll see that we have a partner that does like national ransomware work that does that for us. And they're kind of the 911 digital forensics incident response unit that we rely on. Their SLAs are awesome. They'll pick up the phone within 3 rings if you call that number. If you send an email, they'll respond within 10 minutes.
Well, security really has to be proactive. And it seems like if you're starting this journey with your Dream program, you're going to understand their environment. And so that if there is an incident, it's probably easier to address it. If you've already done the risk assessment and you've already sort of gotten to know their infrastructure, you could probably even move faster and be more effective than coming in cold, I would guess.
Absolutely. And again, I think the staff augmentation model, which if you look at our CISO as a service program, that's pretty much what it is, right? Yeah. But again, we have one particular chief security officer consultant assigned to that business so that they are their CISO. So again, for a fraction of the cost, not to mention all the other chief security officers that we have on staff, you mix all that brain trust together. You may have one that's a thought leader in security architecture. You may have one that's a thought leader in PCI compliance, one that's in SOC, et cetera. So what we've learned as we built this model is that our solution from a staff aug standpoint is incredibly valuable to a small mid-sized business that just doesn't have the budget to bring on a security team, from a direct hire standpoint.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, I really enjoyed learning more about this offering, and Ron, you've done a great job in explaining it, to our audience. Why don't we jump onto the Cyber Exchange platform, and I'm just going to grab the screen real fast and show everybody where GoldSky shows up on the Cyber Exchange platform. So Cyber Exchange is an e-commerce platform where we link best in breed cybersecurity solutions and consultants to the market. It's a public site that anybody can go to, cyberexchange.aptega.com. I've actually pulled up for us on this session the GoldSky private marketplace. So if you just type in GoldSky or find them on the provider drop down here, you'll see all the places that Ron and his team can help you, from business continuity, all the different areas. Public relations management, which is critical in crisis response, all the way down to incident response, and then they do great consulting. So if I need a SOC 2 readiness assessment, I just click on that listing. I can learn more about the process. Looks like it's 5 steps, which is great, easy to digest. I've got a PDF I can look at here to learn more about that particular offering, and then we've got a direct pipeline for you to Ron and his team. Just click get quote. That goes right to Ron, and he and his team will get back to you and help you navigate what you're looking for. Also, there's a 10% savings for Cyber Exchange members. So by going through the Cyber Exchange platform, not only will you get white glove service from Ron and his team, but you'll also save a few bucks on the Cyber Exchange discount. So with that, I just want to say thank you, Ron, for joining us today. I think you provided some great information for our viewers, and check them out at GoldSky and on Cyber Exchange. And Ron, thank you again for joining us today. It was a great session.
Well, Armistead, I want to thank you and Cyber Exchange for allowing us to be on the platform. I would highly recommend it to any cybersecurity advisory or services company. Without question, there's a single place that everyone can come to have all the services and products that they need from a cyber standpoint. And I just think what you've done is revolutionary, and we're excited to be part of the team.
Hey, us as well. Thanks, Ron. Really appreciate the partnership, and let's get out there and help protect these companies.
All right. Sounds good.